Let me ask you a question. Why do we live? Yep, that's the question my 8-year-old asked me last night. Now, before you watch any further, pause this video and comment down below how you would answer that question. And here's the crazy part. That wasn't even the toughest question he asked. So, let's talk about it. So I'm a firm believer that we should have an answer for every question, right? You know, it's like sales 101. If somebody asks you something, even if you don't know, have an answer. Now, I'm not saying you need to bullshit it or lie about it. That answer could simply be, that's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I'll find out. I'll get back to you. Now, I carry this thought process over to my parenting too. When my kids ask me a question, I always want to have an answer, right? Because I always tell them, hey, dad knows everything. Now, they're getting pretty smart to that, and they realize, and they'll be like, no, you don't. Like, yeah, I do. But the reason that I think that way, or I want them to think that way, is I want them to come to me for information. When they have questions, whether they're simple questions or difficult questions, I want them to come to me. I don't want them to be asking their friends or the internet, heaven forbid. I want them to come to me. So pretty much, I asked for this. I brought it on myself. So last night, the boys are off doing their own thing, and I'm sitting there cooking dinner. I'm standing at the stove, stirring the pot, and my 8-year-old walks into the kitchen and says, hey, Dad, can I ask you a question? I said, absolutely, bud. What do you got? And he says, why do we live? Now I respond with, well, what do you mean, why do we live? I'm trying to figure out what the context of the question is. But in all reality, I'm literally just trying to bide some time so that I can figure out how to answer this question. So I ask him, well, what do you mean? Why do we live? Where does that question come from? And he's like, well, why are we here? Why do we live? And I said, okay, all right. Put my stuff down and turn to him and say, listen, so we're basically just animals, right? So he looks to me, what? And I realize he's not connecting the dots. And I said, okay, let me back up. So we're similar to animals in the fact that we are living beings, living creatures, right? He says, okay. And I said, all living creatures or all living things have instincts, things that we just do. And he looks at me, said, okay, Bubs, do you know what instincts means? He says, no. And I said, okay, fair enough. I said, instincts are like those things that we do to live, those things we don't think about, that our body just knows to do them or we just know to do them. That's what instincts are. It's like breathing or eating or drinking or even sleeping. Our body just knows that we need to do those things, right? So when we're hungry, we eat. When we're thirsty, we drink. When we're tired, we sleep. And as living creatures, one of those instincts is to make sure that our species carries on beyond just us. Then he looks at me again. I realize that I've got to bring it down a little bit, and I'm going to have to explain a little bit more. So I say, okay, do you know what species means? He says, no. I said, all right, fine. Species is basically a grouping of similar type living creatures. So humans, we are a species. Dogs are a species. Cats are a species. Does that make sense? And he says, yeah. So it's one of our instincts as a living creature, as a human being, to want to carry on our species. And so moms and dads will create other human beings, our children, so that they can grow up and they can carry on our species or our generations. Does that make sense? And he said, yeah. And he said, but wait, dads don't create babies. Oh shit, here we go. And I'm like, well, I said, they do. The dads do help create babies in the beginning. And then when those babies are born, we help raise them, right? And the whole time I'm thinking, Josh, stop, just stop talking now. But he says, well, but mommies, they build the baby, they make the baby in their belly. And I said, yep, they do. All I'm thinking now is, I hope this doesn't keep going. He says, but wait, Dad, if those babies are in the mommy's belly, how do they get them out? And all I can think is, babe, where are you at? I need your help. I'm tagging you in. I need help. I need assistance. Unfortunately, she's out of town, so I'm on my own. And I'm like, all right, we're going to have to go down this rabbit hole because he's sitting on the counter and we're face to face, and he's not going to let it go. He's got to know the answer. So at this point, I'm really just like, I got to get out of this conversation, but I can't because he's got to know the answer, right? And so I explained to him, and hopefully I did this okay. Hopefully I did it justice for an 8-year-old. But I told him, I said, listen, boys and girls have different parts, right? And I explained what they were called. And I said, and so girls, their parts are made to open up so that a baby can come out. So then he says, oh yeah, I know, I've seen one before. And now I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Where did you see that? Well, my mommy. I was like, okay, all right, fair enough. That's okay. Whew, dodged a bullet. And all I'm thinking is, oh man, what did I do? Oh, hopefully this is okay. I think dinner's burning on the stove. I don't know what's going on. I'm just lost, but I'm hoping it ends soon. And after I said that, he said, okay, that makes sense. Hopped down and went on his day. Man, as a parent, we're challenged every single day. It's a journey. And some days we're challenged with our patience. Some days we are challenged with our knowledge. But last night, I don't really know what that challenge was. But it was crazy. Sometimes these kids just come up with these tough questions. And like I said, as a dad, I want to be able to answer them for them. I want to be their source of knowledge. I love it when they come and ask me those questions. So even no matter how challenging or how awkward or how they are, I want to be the person to help answer those questions for them. So now, after hearing my story, let me know down in the comments how you think I did. Did I do all right? Did I do okay? Do you think I scarred him for life? I don't know. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for spending some of your time with me today. If you got a kick out of this video, or you can relate in any way in answering those tough questions for our kids, please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me. And as always, make the day yours, make the day great. We'll catch you next time. See ya!